Hello, and welcome to more internet confessions that will blow your mind. If you enjoy videos like this, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
I stole my neighbor's cat 6 months ago, and I watch him look for it every single day. I live in a shitty apartment complex where the walls are basically made of paper, and my neighbor was this guy who probably shouldn't even be allowed to own a houseplant, let alone a living creature. He had this small black cat that he would just leave out on the balcony for hours regardless of the weather. I could hear the poor thing crying through the vents while he was inside blasting music or shouting at his Xbox. One night it started pouring rain and the temperature dropped hard, and I saw the cat shivering on the railing looking miserable as hell. I just reached over from my balcony, grabbed the cat, and brought it inside. I didn't even think about it, I just reacted. The next morning, I heard him shouting in the hallway, asking everyone if they had seen his pet. I just stood there with the door cracked open and told him I hadn't seen a thing, and maybe the cat finally jumped off because it was fed up with his shit. He spent weeks putting up posters and walking around the block, calling its name, while the cat was literally sleeping on my bed 10 feet away from him. It has been 6 months now, and he still brings it up whenever we cross paths in the laundry room. He looks genuinely devastated sometimes, which would make me feel bad if I hadn't seen him ignore that cat's bowls for days at a time back then. The cat is doing great now, by the way. I renamed him, and he is healthy as hell because he actually gets fed decent food and doesn't have to freeze his tail off outside. I have to be extremely careful though. I never let him near the windows when the blinds are up, and I have a specific routine for when I take out the trash so he doesn't accidentally dart into the hallway. It is a stressful way to live, but seeing the cat actually purring instead of screaming makes it worth the paranoia. My friends think I just adopted him from a shelter in the next town over, and I am never telling them the truth. Sometimes I see the neighbor at the local bar looking through old photos on his phone, and I just sit there drinking my beer and saying nothing. I know it's technically theft, and I am a liar, but some people just don't deserve the loyalty of an animal. He probably thinks a coyote got it or someone picked it up off the street, which is technically true, I guess. I just happen to be the someone. The cat seems to prefer my taste in movies anyway, so we are sticking to the plan. I will probably move out when my lease is up just to end the risk of him hearing a meow through the wall. Until then, I am just the helpful neighbor who offers a sympathetic nod while the evidence is napping in my living room.
I used to taunt my fat sister. Now I am heavier than her with an eating problem. I used to be very fat phobic for most of my life. Being skinny average came to me without much trouble or food watching, and I was always very vocal about other people's diets and weights. In particular, my older sister and mother have always been quite fat, so I made my fair share of snide comments to them. I really couldn't imagine why they couldn't just exercise a bit more or put down the bag of chips when they knew what it was doing to their figures. Then during COVID, I started to put on real weight myself for the first time ever. During the lockdown, I was forced to work from home, and many of my social outings, such as dancing and clubbing, completely closed. I suddenly had to watch what I eat much more closely, and in general, began to eat more out of stress and boredom. Skip ahead to 2026, and I am over 300 pounds. I'm heavier than both my sister and my mother, and I am genuinely embarrassed about it all. Only now am I realizing how hard it is to actually maintain your weight or lose any. I have an eating problem, and am still putting on weight. It feels like it's karma for my actions in the past, and it's eating at me even after talking things over with my sister and mom. I'm addicted to AI chatbots. I feel humiliated. I'm 17 and super lonely all the time. I started talking to AI in freshman year and never really stopped. I got caught a few years ago and my parents think I stopped, but I haven't. My twin sister still makes fun of me for it. I only recently told my therapist about my addiction. We've been starting to set ground rules, one of them being waiting until 8 p.m. This worked for a little while until I found a new AI, and then I'm just so lonely and so desperate for me to matter to someone that I've resulted in talking to robots. It feels humiliating and embarrassing, and it just makes me hate myself more, and I know it's bad for the environment, so don't come at me for that. I have ADHD, autism, anxiety, and depression, and I just feel super lonely, and Chop Pots will cater to your needs. I just love pretending I'm in a world that doesn't exist like Harry Potter. I just thought, if I could reach out to someone else, might know what I'm going through and might be able to help me.
I broke into a Japanese bar because I forgot my wallet. Ex-Marine here, got to go on vacation out in Japan for 6 months. We would go out to the strip every weekend and get blacked out drunk because it's the way it was. Anyways, I got blacked out drunk, left my wallet in a bar, and left. When I got to the base gate, I was like, I don't have my wallet, so I had to go back. But by the time I was back in town, the bars had all closed up. I ended up sleeping outside on the sidewalk, and I woke up at like 4 a.m. and it was raining. That's when I had the idea. If I go find a way into the bar, I can get back into base. So I go to the front, it's locked, obviously. Then I try the back, it's locked too, but there's a key box on the door handle. So what do? I try just every code I can think of to get that lockbox open. Nothing was working. That's when I had the next great idea. I opened Google and searched what year the bar was founded, 2012, right there. I tried it 2012. It worked. I got the key out of the box and opened the door. When I got inside, I looked up to see if anyone was still downstairs. Nobody was. But I got low, and I was still drunk, I might add, and low crawling across this bar floor. And then I saw it. My wallet. Sitting behind the bar. All I had to do was grab it. I grabbed it. And then I crawled back to the door, went out, locked it, and put the key back in the lockbox. Went back to base and went to sleep. I never told anyone about what happened that night and have since left the Marines, so figured I could finally share it. I got a girl pregnant after me and my ex were on a break and lied to her about it. I'm currently 21. This happened years ago. But when I was younger, I dated a girl for just over a year until she broke up with me in person and without much reason. Later that week, I meet a girl and we have a one-night stand. But a few days after that, my ex contacts me and says we can get back together, even though she freaked out when I told her I kissed a girl. And that's all I told her. Terrible lie from me, because I wanted to get back with her. A handful of weeks later, the girl I slept with told me she was pregnant, but she wanted to get rid of it. She just wanted to let me know, but that almost gave me a heart attack. I feel bad for lying, but I'm not sure if I feel bad for what I lied about. She did break up with me. I am kind of scared of commitment, that's why I never had relationships. Finally, I decided to vent. I am in my early 20s and still haven't had any real relationship. Even during school time, I knew I had good chances with many girls, but still I ran away. I don't know what used to happen to me. Like if a girl comes to talk to me, I wasn't nervous, but I would end conversation fast and run away. Even when a stranger girl was totally coming at me, I turned the other direction. I had shot with some good girls, but still ran away. IDK why, but I kind of feel like Chandler from Friends. And now I haven't used Instagram or any social media apps in a long time and want to date someone, but it honestly feels like a lot of work to me, like talking daily, sharing feeling and whatnot. I just want something casual, like not daily talking, but still be in touch, going on dates, having fun, etc. Also, gender ratio is pretty bad in my country, therefore it would take some time to find the right one. What do you think I should do? I tanked a massive group project just to ruin a rich kid's GPA, and I don't feel bad about it. This has been eating at me for a few weeks, but mostly because of how good it felt. I'm a senior, working 30 hours a week at a warehouse just to cover rent and tuition. My life is basically caffeine, lifting boxes, and trying to stay awake during lectures. Then there's Caleb. He's in my business law capstone, and he's the definition of born on third base. This guy shows up in a car that costs more than my net worth, talks about his dad's firm every 5 minutes, and has this smug, effortless, a student energy because he's never had to worry about anything in his entire life. He's on a specific academic scholarship that requires him to maintain a 3.8, and he treats the rest of us like we're just background characters in his success story. We got paired up for a project that was worth 40% of our final grade. I was the one responsible for the final data synthesis and the legal formatting. Caleb, of course, did his part perfectly. He's not lazy, which almost makes it worse. He's just entitled. He handed me his sections days early and kept checking in to see if I needed help, like he was my manager. Every time he'd ask, I'd just feel this spike of pure, concentrated resentment. He's going to graduate and walk into a 6-figure job while I'm going to be paying off debt until I'm 40. I decided right then that I wanted to see him actually fail at something for once. I didn't do anything obvious that would get me flagged for academic dishonesty. I just became the weak link in a very calculated way. I waited until 2 hours before the submission deadline to upload the final document to our shared drive. I purposefully missed 2 of the key case law precedents we were supposed to cite, and I formatted the entire bibliography in a way that I knew our professor, who is a stickler for APA, would absolutely despise. I also left a few gaping holes in the analysis sections that Caleb had written, making it look like he hadn't actually supported his arguments. I sent a quick message saying I had a technical glitch and barely made the deadline, so there was no time for him to review it before the professor locked the portal. The presentation day was a train wreck. The professor started grilling Caleb on the missing citations and the logic gaps. Watching Caleb's face turn from that confident, smug tan to a pale, panicked mess was the most satisfying thing I've experienced in 4 years of college. He kept trying to explain that the final draft looked different when he sent it, but because I'd saved over the file in a hurry, he couldn't prove anything. We ended up with a C- on the project. For me, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to pass and get the paper. But for Caleb, that grade messed up his semester average. Last I heard, he's actually at risk of losing that scholarship for his final term. He tried to email me a few times asking what happened, but I just ignored him. He's currently scrambling, trying to talk to the dean, acting like the world is ending because he might actually have to pay for a semester of school. I'm sitting here in the library, eating a bag of cheap chips, and honestly, I feel lighter than I have in months. Some people might say it was petty or that I hurt myself too, but seeing him realize that he's not untouchable was worth every point I lost. I guess he'll have to learn how the real world works now, where things don't always go right just because you have a trust fund and a nice smile.
Thanks for listening to these crazy confessions. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.